This episode is going to be focused on fall and nutrition. This is part 2 in the fall series that I wanted to bring onto the podcast here. And while you may hear me reference some of the old offerings that I have had, such as feminine fitness, maybe calling the podcast feminine fitness because that's what it used to be called, I really gave my all to these episodes and thinking of the ideas and putting them into play for you. So this is a re-uploaded series, but what I want you to know is that honoring your biology, whether you're honoring your luteal phase or you're honoring the season that is changing of the environment around you, or just really re-establishing new healthy habits for yourself after maybe letting go of a lot of healthy habits this summer, reining in on some nutritional pieces that will really help you feel good for all that you have on your plate. I hope that you get a few tips from this episode, some fun, fresh ideas to revamp your nutrition. And always remember, one of my main methods is the thirds of the day. So focus, instead of changing everything all at once, maybe just get yourself into a really well-rounded morning routine that makes you feel good, you feel fueled, you feel satisfied. It's foods that you like and enjoy, and then move to the second third of the day, which would be the lunchtime afternoon block of time. And then once you have mastered that and provided for yourself good rhythms and routines and systems and habits for those parts of the day, then you stack on the evening. With being a health and fitness coach for over a decade, you guys, I have seen time and time again, ladies that change everything all at once. And while it works for a while, it really is hard to maintain for most. And when I've coached client after client on this thirds method, changing one part of your day, then the next part of your day, and then finishing off with the completion of the next part of your day, I noticed that they establish overall well-rounded habits and rhythms and routines. So I just wanted to remind you of that, and also remind you that from now and moving forward, we will be having the Living in Sync Patreon page, and that is taking place of the Feminine Edge Collective membership. What I found was a lot of the ladies in the Feminine Edge Collective membership weren't going into the app, and so then I created a private podcast feed. Then all of a sudden I saw the private podcast feed become out of control. I knew and could see how many members there were of the Feminine Edge Collective, and then I also saw the number of people who were listening to the private podcast feed. And when it got to double, almost triple on some of my exclusive classes and the exclusive podcast episodes, I was like, I really didn't want to do this, but I had to move to a membership model that was easier for me tech-wise and easier for you guys to go through and consume the content. And I'm actually a Patreon member to a handful of other podcasters, and I love that it is very affordable. I also love that the Patreon app is very easy to navigate. I love that you can comment under certain episodes, and I also love that you can sync it and link it to either your Apple or your Spotify podcast platform. And so while this is a change, the same content of a monthly class, a Bible study, a community Q&A, that's all going to stay the same. But I'm also going to be adding some day in the life vlogs. We're going to do that once a month, which will be really fun and exclusive. This app is going to streamline everything on my tech end of things, while also being supportive for you in being affordable and an easy way to consume quality exclusive content. So I really appreciate the Feminine Edge collective members that made this change so quickly with me. I was really nervous about posting it into the group. I felt really sad that our routine and our rhythm and what we were doing wasn't working. But I do think that after this and getting into the Patreon app, you're really seeing how it is streamlined. It's going to be simple, it's effective, it's organized. The organization of what was going on in the Feminine Edge Collective, that was probably the most questions I was getting asked, is like, where do I find this? Where do I find that? And with Patreon, it's just a simple feed that you can go through and everything will be there from here on out. So starting in October is where we're going to, I'm putting all of the September content into both places right now. So September's content and then October and moving forward will be fully in Patreon for $5 a month. And I think this will be really great. So if you're interested, I will leave that detailed in the show notes. If you are already a member of the Patreon, thank you so much for making the transition and the change and supporting me and the podcast through your Patreon. Now let's roll into today's show. This is a long intro. Sorry guys, but let's roll into it. Welcome to the Living in Sync podcast, where we will talk about the biological blueprint of your cycle and how your hormones impact every area of your life. I'm your host, Joelle, certified nutritionist, mom of 2, fitness coach for over a decade, and I want to help you better understand your cycle to work with your body in achieving your goals. I will teach you how to care for your body in a well-rounded and realistic way that caters to your season of life and feel freaking amazing. In every episode, you will get tips, takeaways, and just feel like this is a heart-to-heart chat with a friend. Let's roll into today's episode. Hello, my friend. Welcome to today's podcast episode. Today, we're going to be talking about nutrition in specific to coming into the fall season. I'm going to talk about foods that are really supportive and great and thriving and in season in the fall. We're going to talk about some meals. I hope that me sharing some meal ideas just really sparks some new creativity, maybe on some of your family staples of what you could add into your rhythm and routine. We are also going to be talking about vitamins and supplementation that is important, especially in fall rolling into the winter months for overall wellness and your immunity and all of that stuff. So this would be a really great episode focused more on food. If you didn't listen to part 1 of this fall series, I will link that down in the show notes below, where I talk about the season, the phase of our cycle that is very much like fall, and then what is supportive for our home, our lifestyle, and fitness. But today we're talking about food and nutrition. So in the fall, and the best way that you can save money and eat healthy is really be in tune what is in season. And so I have a food list of what is in season in the fall, and I'm going to run through that really quickly. I do want to just have you keep in mind that we're talking about the season of fall here in the change of the weather seasons, but this is also very relevant to luteal phase. And so after ovulation and before your menstrual phase is your inner fall, your inner autumn. And so these foods that I'm going to run through not only are supportive of this season, but specifically this phase. And we're also going to talk about cooking methods and all of that. So just keep in mind fall as the season, luteal as the phase of your cycle really do align together. And the foods that are supportive in this season of the weather and in the season of our hormones, fall, luteal, go hand in hand. Okay. So let's roll through the foods. And I do have a food list that is included in the Feminine Fitness Foundation. So those of you who are members of that course, you can bust out your food list, print it off, and know that it's going to save you money and also be very fresh, vibrant foods this fall from this list. So things like apples, bananas, beets, bell pepper, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, cabbage, carrots, cauliflower, celery, collard greens, cranberries, garlic, ginger, grapes, green beans, herbs, kale, kiwi, lemons, lettuce, limes, mangoes, mushrooms, onions, parsnips, pears, peas, pineapples, potatoes, pumpkin, pumpkin season, y'all, radishes, raspberries, rutabagas, spinach, sweet potatoes and yams, Swiss chard, turnips, winter squash, and all the squash variations. So those of you who heard that list and you're like, there's a lot of foods I don't like on that list, what I always do with clients is I want you to focus on, whenever you see a food list like this or hear me say that, if you want to rewind and go through again, but when you hear a food list like that, try to pinpoint what you do like, what your kids like, what your family will eat. And I always look at it from that standpoint of, I'm going to save money, and the produce is also going to be optimal if I'm shopping based on what is in season, right? Apples, bananas, carrots, cauliflower. Did you notice a lot of these foods that are in season are fruits and vegetables, things that are growing in the ground, because in the fall, the plants are sending more energy to the root systems to help them thrive and make it through winter when they're not getting nutrients or as much nutrients from above. Crazy cool, huh? So it makes sense why those root vegetables, potatoes and cauliflower and celery and things that grow underground, carrots, are thriving during this season. Okay. So you can look at a food list like that, and it really gives me some great ideas for sides. It's not that you have to eat only from what's in season or what's on a certain food list. It's about picking out what you like, what your family will eat, and maybe sparking some really great ideas for side dishes or things that you can pair with different meals and whatnot. So let's talk about food and cooking methods. So with our cyclical rhythm, our digestion does change. So in our luteal phase, our inner fall phase, our digestion is starting to slow down. And our digestion wants those foods that are easily digestible. And by cooking our foods down, it is making vegetables, specifically cruciferous vegetables, easier to digest and easier to process. And so things that are roasted, baked, crock pot, instant pot meals, so as the weather cools, a lot of those really great warming foods tend to sound better. I know for me, when it's hot outside and it's summertime, I'm like, I do not want a soup. I do not eat like chicken noodle soup or chili from like early spring to September. I do not make that in my meal rotation unless it's like a random rainy day that sounds really, really good, or we have a little cold spout. Excuse my voice. If we have that little bit of a cold spout, maybe, but it does become very routine and rhythm to have things like soups and stews during the fall. Another really great meal idea that's quick and, well, not necessarily quick, but it's easy, is sheet pan meals. So you could do various types of meats, a bunch of different vegetables and potatoes, sweet potatoes, whatever it is you want to do, put that on a sheet pan, let it all bake together. And sheet pan meals are really great during the fall because it's a nice warm meal. You're also using a lot of those root vegetables. You know, you can do like Brussels and broccoli and cauliflower and carrots. And then the members of your family like broccoli can choose broccoli, and those that like cauliflower can choose cauliflower. And it really kind of makes a good variety of things for your family. And then another really great idea is harvest bowls. And a lot of people overcomplicate harvest bowls. And harvest bowls are actually one of the simplest things to meal prep, but still feel really fresh when you're reheating it. And what I mean by that is with harvest bowls, you can have a carb and a protein as a base, and then just add in various things for flavor. So you could do obvious like burrito bowls, and those would be like very like taco style seasonings. You could also do like Italian style harvest bowls where you have, some meatballs and marinara, and maybe your base is zoodles and noodles, and you're topping it with some bell peppers. Those are in season, fresh Parmesan cheese, and it's this nice, warm, hearty meal. I've also done like Greek style harvest bowls. I do find some really good harvest bowls in the freezer section at the grocery store. Aldi has some great options where I'm just reheating it and then adding a few things to spruce it up. So sometimes I'll just have some chopped bell pepper, some feta cheese, or some goat cheese, or any kind of cheese, and add in just a few things to like spruce it up so it feels fresh. A lot of times with burrito bowls, I'll do bell peppers and maybe some steak and rice, and a little bit of pico de gallo, top it with some fresh squeezed lime juice, and super simple, right? It's just a nice hearty meal. You'll feel so full and fuel and satisfied. And if you know me, you know my eating style is definitely eat full, fueling, satisfying meals with well-rounded protein, carbohydrates, healthy fats at every single meal. So then your food is really keeping you full and satisfied for like 4-ish hours long, and you get on with your day. Your body will learn to use your hunger rhythm or your hunger hormones as the rhythm of feeling full and satisfied. And then also when you are getting genuinely hungry and ready for your next meal, it's not always leaning on these spikes of glucose saying, I need some energy, I need some energy. Your body's learning how to really optimally function. And I have a whole nother podcast episode on that. So keep in mind with the things that are going on in the season, add in some of those meals into your rotation. And also, if you're a member of the Feminine Fitness Foundation's program, there is an outlined meal plan that you could definitely use as a guide for your weekly meal plan rotation that gives you ideas for meals that your family will actually eat, and not like, like you're eating differently because you're supporting your hormones. Your family will not even notice, okay? Vitamins. Now let's talk about some key things that I make sure for myself and for my family that we're keeping up on, especially going into the holiday season, the cold and flu season. We're not even going to talk about COVID-19, but really being at the forefront of health as best as we can, okay? And for the fall and winter times, vitamins like vitamin A, C, vitamin D, which we hear over and over again, like you need to also have K2 paired with vitamin D for optimal absorption, iron, selenium, zinc, and B vitamins, very supportive for energy, especially if you struggle with seasonal depression, getting a little bit of the winter blues. Vitamin D and B vitamins can be very supportive. And for those of you who are like me and you're like, I don't want to have like 5 different bottles of stuff. I'd rather just have the one bottle that is well-rounded, that has all that I need. You guys know that myself and my clients have talked about Ovamoon. And so Ovamoon is a really great, well-rounded overall multivitamin with hormone support. And so that is what I am taking lately. I'm taking Ovamoon every single day with my anxiety medication. I take them at the exact same time. And like Abby said on her podcast where she came and spoke, I really do notice a big difference if I've consecutively missed days of my Ovamoon supplementation. And I'm not associated with Ovamoon at all. It's just a well-rounded multivitamin supplement, and then it also has the supportive things that we need for our hormonal fluctuations. So I highly recommend Ovamoon. I have them on auto ship to my house. You guys know I also drink Shakeology, which is plant-based, and I get my nutrition from that as well. So it is a combination of supplementation support with food. Okay. I am going to talk about quercetin. So quercetin is a plant pigment that is very potent in antioxidant properties. And so with my supplement, you can buy quercetin on its own. And what quercetin does is reduces inflammation, increased immunity, and aids in exercise performance. So during our luteal phase and also in the fall time, our body's natural response is to store and to slow down. And so quercetin can really be supportive in exercise performance during this time. And that is why our product Energize has the pigmentation that it does. If you purchase quercetin and it is not bright yellow, it is highly processed, because in its most natural form, it is a bright pigmentation of yellow. And quercetin, I'm telling you, you guys, I used to do this series on Instagram called like upcoming trends for health and fitness trends for the new year. And I promise you, you will hear and you will see more products and supplementation that are saying, oh, this has quercetin in it. This has quercetin in it. And guess what? It's been in our Beachbody Performance line since 2015 when it came out. I know we are the innovators. Just like I'm going to talk about it for a hot minute, Shakeology. If you don't drink Shakeology, that is a-okay. If you are a Shakeology drinker, it is absolutely primo important to be drinking it now. I know I'm talking about right now eating what's locally grown and fresh and in the season. Well, we're coming up on winter, and guess what? The most prominent thing surrounding me in the winter is ice, and we don't get access to great quality fruit and vegetables for a handful of months in our year. And with knowing how Shakeology is created and how it is processed and where it is sourced from, it is just peace of mind for me to have that top-notch nutrition all year round. And that's all I'm going to say about it. And don't knock it until you try it, because I truly see the biggest skeptics say, I'll try for 30 days and we'll see. And biggest skeptics be like, I notice the biggest difference when I'm off of it. And that's the thing with supplements, whether it's Shakeology or anything. If you have it in your routine and you feel it supporting you, then you sometimes take it for granted and don't get it again. And then you're kind of like, I didn't realize how much that was impacting me in a positive way. And so with that, and with this nutrition episode, I hope that you enjoyed it. I hope that, you got some ideas for foods to keep on hand or have in your grocery rotation all of the time during this season, but then also some ideas of knowing what's supportive of your cycle, of what's going on in the environment around you. Also save you some money when you buy what is in season. It's usually cheaper. And so I hope you just got some great overall advice for supplementation and food and nutrition. Obviously, talk with your doctor if there's anything that you are concerned about based on your personal body. Be the advocate for your health, your immunity, your energy. It is important. It's important for all the things that you do, your health, your vibrancy, your nutrition, your workouts. It should all support you to feel great as a mom, to crush the day mentally and have the energy for the job that you have, for the career that you have, to be there cognitively and cheering on your kids at their activities and have the energy to sustain a healthy lifestyle, right? And it's this kind of a tangent, but it's no coincidence that there's more bugs and cold and flu and all of this stuff that goes around rampantly in the fall and winter time, because number one, we're not outside as much. Hello, vitamin D. We're not as active typically because it gets colder, so people tend to do inside activities more. And then we've got the holidays and we're hit with sugar. And sugar suppresses the immune system. It just does. Sugar suppresses your immune system. It suppresses your kids' immune system. So for me, this is just what I do with my kids when they get Halloween candy or when they've gotten parade candy. I let them go to town on the candy in the one sitting, and then it's gone, right? And that works right now for the season of life my kids are in. For some of your people who have older kids, sharing with them the effects of sugar may be beneficial, not from a standpoint of like, it's the worst thing in the world you could do, right? Like shaming them for eating sugar, but really knowing the more sugar they consume, the more it is important to make sure that we have well-rounded, healthy meals or healthy options available to our families during the other times, right? Does that make sense? I remember hearing from somebody that said it's not our job as a mom to force our family to eat. It is our job to serve them what we know is best for them and their bodies. And yeah, sometimes that means cupcakes and special desserts at Thanksgiving and eating a donut with grandma, because that's well-rounded quality of life, but that not being the standard way of eating in our household. Does that make sense? Like I really hope to bring like a nice centered way of living with your fitness and your nutrition and your cycle syncing and everything like that. Like it's just a well-rounded way of living. And I hope you got some advice and some takeaways from today's episode. Thank you for listening to today's episode. If you loved what you heard or you want to share your favorite episode topics, please leave a rating and review. This helps the podcast growth and gives people an idea of what the podcast is all about. Something new and exciting that I wanted to share with you before we go is that we now have a Patreon page. This has replaced the Feminine Edge collective community in a cohesive place that is easier for me to manage and cheaper for you. If you are interested in our monthly classes, exclusive day in the life vlogs, Bible studies, community Q&A, and more, go to patreon.com/livingInSync and join for just $5 a month. Check out the show notes for any links or details of things referenced in today's episode, and I look forward to chatting with you in the next one.